It's really rooted in some very iconic moments in the Transformers universe. Many moments that have been kind of looked at before, whether in previous incarnations of the book, or in the TV show, or in the animated, certainly the animated film. And it was really the story of the fall of the previous government, Zeta Prime, and the rise of Optimus, and kind of the codifying the ideologies that define Autobots and Decepticons. Of course, built on top of all the work he has been doing the last decade. So as we were talking about a sequel, we really wanted to look at the idea of now that Optimus has risen and he's kind of won freedom for the world. Really looking at the idea of what would the people do with freedom, once you have it. And it seemed kind of like a perfect follow-up because he's now this great leader and this great prime, but it's kind of like year one, right? We know that he kicks butt, we know that he can shoot and do his robot kung fu and all that. But how is he as a leader, year one, right? The real test is if people just don't want to go the way you want to go, right? How will he do to lead his people? Ultimately, we see how Megatron does it. He just tries to control, through force of arms.
Megatron's going on a little journey on this one too. Megatron's going to hell in this one.
Fairly literally. So in looking at kind of Prime and Megatron and what happens after the fallout of Autocracy, it was just a really cool experiment in these guys growing even more into the characters that we've kind of been following all these years. And there's the title kind of suggests this might be the kind of like a dark the dark follow-up, right? That as things get tense on Seibertron, there's a lot of tension and a lot of rage that's kind of building in all of these these kind of factionally and personally for many characters, and ultimately overcoming your inner demons and choosing to be heroic was also a pretty big theme for us.
Well, I mean, the other thing too is thematically it's the Autobots and Optimus won a war in the last one, and spoiler, already out. They won a war, but what you're going to find out is that is that when you win a war, it just really sets the conditions for the next war, and determines what that's going to be, and that's what's kind of fun about it. Plus the fact, I hadn't killed Optimus in a while, so we decided to kind of arbitrarily start killing Transformers. We're hoping IDW won't mind. No, that's a big lie. We're not doing that. We're very judicious about that.
And I think also in the sequel, visually, you're going to see areas of Seibertron that you've never seen before. Like you're going to discover things along with the characters, something a lot more than just like the cities that we've seen all these years. A lot of stuff coming.
Yeah. I think as you guys are doing these 8-page installments, I don't know if you have any thoughts on telling stories digitally and with fights like this.
Well, it's interesting. We were just talking about Autocracy and the pros and cons of the format. So we had the digital comics questionnaire. Like, how many of y'all in the room have read Autocracy digitally? A few.
Would have been really embarrassing.
We really love the 8 of you who have read it. But it's interesting in the digital. Exactly. It's an 8-page blast, and you really have to kind of define your outlines. It's like every square inch matters, right? You have to be very, very efficient in terms of the concepts you want to show, because not every concept can translate into that kind of compacted format. So it's been interesting, right? Like in many ways, we've had a lot of people read it and go like, wow, it was like surprisingly dense for 8 pages. Like it felt like a very meaty meal, if you will. But there's also that sense of like, you get done with it, or I was we're reading it in a trade format, and there's kind of this stop-start kind of thing, because it's each chapter is so condensed. So there's kind of pluses and minuses, but I think it definitely nets out in terms of a very rich, conceptually dense experience. It's just a different kind of gear than a normal 22-page book.
Yeah, those books where people are saying, there are a few filler scenes in there. We didn't have those scenes in this book. This was all dense packed, incredibly high velocity, and the challenge was how to leave stuff out of there. I mean, I think a day and age will come with digital books where you don't have to look at it like paper. Where you can go back later on and say, oh yeah, we should have put in that scene, and you just insert a scene in there and you kind of update it like any other kind of app. It's like, we kind of cheated you out of the scene.
Or imagine, we'd always have, this is just ideas where, if you're on a specific page and you're watching through, a sequence of events, but there's like a little glowy Autobot symbol in the corner, and you kind of double click that frame and it just rabbit trails into some other kind of tangential story. So digital opens up, a totally new vector for how you engage with a comic book. So we're, always thinking about that kind of stuff. What material that's just.
How many of you guys who read digital read it in that kind of guided view system? We go panel by panel. A lot of you guys, or not so much? You? Okay.
You can just read it like square, like